Hey, what's up? This is Cabru again, and I hopefully will speed things up a little bit. I changed the graphics to fast. Maybe they'll cut back on some of the frame drops. Although I'm still expecting a little lag like I'm getting right now. But I was going to build a forge, but I think I'll build a lodge first, just because I don't really have a bed to use when it's nighttime, if I need to switch it to daytime. I'm not too worried about dying, just because I have some good armor and stuff, but when you're trying to build and there's just creeper after creeper coming after you, it's just not very fun. Yeah, so earlier today, I had this wonderful child in the store, and it's so wonderful, in fact, that I wholeheartedly support abortion for some families. Now, that does sound mean. Yes, it does. You did not have to deal with this child, however. And admittedly, the fault was probably with the parent, as she wasn't being a parent. Well, I guess you could say it wasn't a parent, she was a parent. Until I took the initiative and started scolding the child. I mean, he's grabbing stuff off the shelves from behind the counter. Phones, for the store use. He knocked over a display, literally ripped it off the counter because it was taped down to the counter, grabbed the phone and started fiddling with it, grabbing stuff off the shelf, knocking it on the floor, unintentionally, I suppose, because he was just kind of being flaily, but basically because he was unsupervised despite his mother being there. It's not fun dealing with that, but it was certainly entertaining. I eventually had to tell the mother, after he barreled into a display that was on the counter, that I just said, I'm sorry, I don't want this kid in the store. And as she was leaving, admittedly, like at first I felt bad, but as she was leaving, she's like, see, you got kicked out of another store. So I felt a little secure, I guess, in that decision. But he was really being rowdy and disruptive to other patrons, I guess you could say. And so let's see, I'm going to build a lodge, probably make it like a little RPG inn, where you have the one little room where you walk up and there's a counter, and then the rooms are like all the way to the left most of the time. Ooh, an ocelot. Kitty, 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 kitty. Why do we always make those same sounds to cats? Do we just assume they'll respond to that? Because being cats, they usually ignore everything. And I guess like this one. So I suppose realism is a factor in this game. And it's still getting some lag. There's not too much I could do about it. Still purple stuff. It could be from the obsidian, I guess. Who knows? It's kind of pretty though. I like it. What I usually like to do is I dig out a space, fill it with cobblestone, use that as like a base layer. It's good for planning out the base floor, I guess, which I have no idea what I'm doing right now, so you can completely ignore what I just said. Yeah, so I guess as far as the lodge, we'll make it not too deep, just deep enough to have a few small little rooms. There we go. Okay, so yeah, what's interesting? Well, movies for one. I actually was just watching the Evil Dead trailer, which it looks like they're going a little bit less with comedy, basically go more like the first movie, and have more of a straight up horror movie. It definitely looks like he's going with the gore and imagery that kind of made him famous, I suppose, from Evil Dead 1 and 2. I'm excited about it, that's for certain. Will they bring Ash back as like an Ash, though, or will it just be like a bunch of random teenagers getting slaughtered? That's the big question. I'm guessing just the random teenagers slaughtered. But they had scenes where the hand gets cut off, or cuts their own hand off, and with chainsaw, blood splurting everywhere. So be a little gory, but I guess he's going with the classic feel to it. You know, this is... oh, look at this. And there's a creeper down there. Probably two, or is that a zombie? This is the great thing about Minecraft, is adventure just about just about around every stone. Holy cow. And I cannot see anything. Oh, creeper. Yeah, that's why creepers are not fun. And what do we got? Ooh, what is this? Some creepy sounds. Oh, they can't get near the torch. I thought he was doing some sort of like techno dance or something. And it's just a room. Hey, some uranium. Or no, or is that, Yes, I think that's what that is. But I don't need bones. Pick up my torches. Leave the shrooms. Never know when you might need them. Although, let's take one or two of these. And let me empty my inventory, actually. There we go, that's what I need. You can actually do something really fun with these. And I'll get rid of that. Pick that back up. And let's get out of here. The problem is finding a good spot. Oh. Yeah, this is why it's not fun building at night. Oh, let's take care of these. Wah! Die, Skelly! Gonna use Totterhoon's shop as a little temporary house here. Yeah, you know, I should probably hop in EverQuest sometime, say hello to my friends, which I haven't seen in a little while. Give Totterhoon another run through a dungeon or two. It's interesting how people develop characters in games like these. Like, I don't know if anyone else really does this, but you just make a character, you're just playing. But, like, over time, you kind of develop a personality for them, almost. I mean, it's just you. But, in a way, it's almost like a different person, even though it's still just you making the choices yourself. And, I guess that's how most works of fiction start, is just, you draw on something you're familiar with, usually yourself, or family members, or friends, and, you just take it from there, basically, just, although some stories get a little wacky, such as, you know, stuff like, stuff you wouldn't think of normally until someone presents you with the idea first, I suppose. Some good ones. Like I got a kick out of like Hedwig and the Angry Inch, which is, I guess, a little odd compared to mainstream. Really wacky movies that I can't ever remember the name of, like with Rose McGowan and who is it? Robert Duvall's son? I don't even remember. So I'm sure somebody will remember, or I'll look it up later. But even stuff farther back, like, what the... Well, okay, I was going to say, what the heck were people thinking with creating characters like Zeus that sleeps with, like... Well, he's like Kirk, basically. He sleeps with anything he can get his hands or, you know, other pieces on. But I guess in some ways the Greeks were known for being lecherous, I suppose, to a degree. So I guess it's not that much of a stretch. And yeah, let's get into the sex lives of the Greek people. How about we do that? That sounds like a good conversation to have. It's a great thing when you're playing games, and every gamer does this. They just lose their train of thought. it doesn't matter what they'll start talking about what they want for dinner and wind up finishing on, like the grooming habits of cats. Yeah, see, I'm just doing it now. Although, being on the internet, cats are a normal thing to go to. Although I did read an interesting article that, actually I think it was a cracked article, now that I think about it, where a cat's purr actually has healing properties because of the range that the sonics fall into. And it's weird. It's not just cats. It's basically anything in that range of sound. It's interesting how complex and like reactive the human body is to different stimuli. Anything from sound, smells, all sorts of stuff, and like things you wouldn't think of can have a dramatic effect on how you react and how you interact with the world. And to a degree, I guess that's where some philosophers get to, like, how much do you really control yourself? Like, I mean, how much is what you do independent thought, and how much of it is just a reaction to the stimulus or the stimuli around you? I mean, you can make arguments like, well, no, I have free thought. I'm thinking right now that I have free thought, but when you're walking down a street and you take a left instead of a right to go to a place, and you think that you're just making an arbitrary decision, but there might be a whole string of events that drive you towards one direction. Maybe it's color patterns that are affecting the way your brain perceives, left compared to right. Like maybe towards the right there's more red, and towards the left there's more blue, and maybe the sounds or smells, and whether the fact that if you've had enough water to drink for the day, like maybe that's changing the way your brain is processing things, and or a lack of nutrients or an abundance of nutrients. Like everything affects what you do, and it's interesting. Like to me, it would be interesting to kind of take that apart step by step and see how much of independent thought is actually independent. And I guess in a way you can make the argument is it's a good example of how people claim that, well, we're all together. We're all everything we do is connected, and I guess it's a really basic way of describing a complex series of processes, I suppose. And like I've never liked stopping at that point where you just have a simple explanation that kind of avoids most of the issues. And like I prefer, even if nothing comes of it, to just kind of delve in and like examine every part and keep adding layers and layers and layers until you realize how complex it is. And sometimes you can understand it, but most of the time it just, you wind up having more questions that will probably never be answered within a reasonable time frame. Admittedly, an attention span is often the issue. Oh, look at that. I crashed out. Yeah, let me fix that, and I'll be back. Okay, so I logged back in, and I was falling through the void, which is, if I'm not mistaken, the area below the bedrock, which is normally the lowest spot you could go to. Luckily, I was able to use my flying ring to at least start flying back upwards, and it eventually teleported me above ground. I'm just glad I didn't lose all the stuff I had on me. Not that I couldn't replace it, it's just, it'd be a bit of a nuisance otherwise. So yeah, that's a bit, apparently Minecraft doesn't like getting existential, or philosophical, or whatever word you feel like using to describe random discussions. But yeah, I'm so building the lodge here, and I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, I like to think I have a creative process. Honestly, I don't. And it's kind of weird, I guess. Like all my previous videos with from EverQuest 2, I never actually wrote out what I wanted to do. I would just go to an area and say, this looks like a good spot. They're like, oh, hey, look, this dragon, it's nice blues, nice lighting, let me film something here. And I'd just kind of stand around, look for a little bit. I'm like, these characters, it looks like they should be standing right about here. And they're like, well, what should they be saying? I don't know. I'll figure that out. Well, let's see. I want them to have this kind of interaction, so my leech cats will go, and then Totterhoon will go, and then I'll just kind of have like these mock phonic conversations, and then I would act that out with the characters, and then I would go back afterwards and try to figure out what kind of dialogue should fit. I'm not sure if that's a good thing. It's certainly not normal, I suppose, compared to how my more artistic friends do things. But that's the best process I have, I guess. Although I'm sure other people will judge whether it turns anything good or not. Let's see, I do need stone bricks. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. This is sort of what I meant in my last video, where you basically earn your place as a creative mode, where you can kind of just create things. I mean, I had to store energy in the Klein Star in order to create this stuff, so it's not entirely free, I suppose, you know, consumption-wise, but it's close enough. And hooah! Okay, and these actually should be wood compared to the other buildings, but maybe I'll make this one a little different. So that looks like a good first floor. The doorway is kind of, you know, I think I'll move it over a little bit. I don't like the idea of the doorway being right on the corner. And voila! That's the wrong material. And I should probably put up a couple of torches, otherwise I'm about to be overrun by creepers and skeletons and zombies, oh my. And gravel. Actually, torches first. And boop! There we go. I love the sound of walking on gravel in this game. I don't know why. Seems like a satisfying footstep sound without being too harsh or, you know, thumpy. And lay some dirt there. Now, just imagine if, yeah, never mind. I can't even think of the word. You know, lawn decorating your lawn. I'll eventually remember that word. It was this just cubed. Everything was cubed. You could just pick stuff up and move it. Actually, it'd probably help with my house cleaning as well, if everything was just a cube that I could pick up and drop. That would make pets really weird. Kind of square cats. And some bricklaying. And it's kind of small, but I think I'll actually have the rooms upstairs, like maybe a little staircase here, going up there, and on the floor just a small hallway with a few tiny rooms, just enough. Oh, maybe a porch or a balcony, whatever the proper naming convention is for that. It could stick out a little bit. That might work. I think I need to extend it back a little. How about I do that? Let's fill in some of this. And here come the monsters. I think I could do this without getting them involved. Yeah, so anyway, it'd be interesting to see how much of what we think is actually independent and what defines it as being independent, aside from it not being tied to any annoying zombies. Aside from it being tied, well, you know, I guess there's different ways to define it as independent. Like, this is not specifically related to any other input. But, yeah, I'm rambling. Ugh. which I guess is good, because I don't get to do that at work much, because work is, well, it's work. Talk to the customers, find out what they want, get them what they want, and that's pretty much it. You have some good conversations every now and then, but a lot of times it's just, hey, how are you, thank you, goodbye, typical stuff like that. Then, well, of course, then again, there's family and friends where my conversation is just about as enthralling, or engaging, I suppose. That's the other fun parts. Now that I'm actually chopping dirt and using words, I have to chop dirt and use words properly, which is always a fun task when you're trying to concentrate on two things at once. Ooh. That'd be great, though. Like, oh yeah, it'd be great in this debate. Just, I need to chop some wood and dig some dirt in order to be good at it, though. Does the debate squad allow that? I would guess no. Wow. Would be interesting to try to excavate with a morning star, though. I'm sure there's a Guinness World Record in there for that. So anyway, what they really need is a new Star Trek show. I've been thinking about this, and that's entirely random, but, you know, I like Star Trek, as my spaceship up there can tell you. But I've been thinking, they don't need a regular show. They need, like, a variety show, I guess you could say, in the sense where you don't have the same characters all the time. It's not just, you know, Picard and crew every episode. It's okay, for 2 or 3 episodes you focus on these people, for another 2 or 3 episodes you focus on those people, like that kind of variety, where it's not that way. You can, I mean, you have lots of guest stars, lots of guest writers. I mean, don't keep the same writers all the time. I mean, you obviously want a few to help keep continuity, in Star Trek more so than a lot of other shows. That's very important, just because of the rabid fan base, I would guess. But it'd be great to see it on television again, aside from old reruns. And I know it used to be important in the past. You know, it broke a lot of conventions that were considered no-nos, and it made a lot of things which it made a lot of things commonplace for the better, like interracial mixing, and you know, just the idea that you can talk about things that you're not supposed to talk about. That, you know, that idea, which comedians have been, they're at the forefront of that. Like South Park is a perfect example of that. Like, if there's something you're not supposed to talk about, more likely not, South Park will have a whole musical about it. So, and that's good, because no matter how much you don't want to talk about something, personally, most of the time it needs to be talked about. I mean, if you don't want to talk about something, it's probably because you have conflicting emotions about it, or conflicting thoughts about it, or misunderstood about it a lot of times too. Now, obviously, it doesn't mean you should agree with everything, because there are just some things people should not agree with. You know, hence why we have, you know, crimes and laws against certain things. But it'd be neat to see a show that handles modern topics that people aren't talking about in a non-comedic way, I guess. Deals with it in a more serious manner. And Star Trek used to always be good about that. I mean, they've had shows about torture. They've had shows about, you know, religious prosecution. They've had shows about, you know, from both sides of the coins, being the religious prosecuting and being prosecuted because you're religious. And it's just, there's so many things that not that it'd be a unifying sort of force, but it'll at least get conversations started, I think, or at least bring it to a point where people feel like they can converse about it. And that's probably more important than you know, the next Honey Boo Boo episode, I suppose. Not that there isn't a place for those, it's just not a place I'm interested in personally. Which is fine, because, Honey Boo Boo isn't something I would normally want to talk about, but obviously people are talking about it, and it helps to show that that there are people like that. And it's something as a society we have to deal with, that there are people who treat their children basically like, well, it's not literal prostitution, but they're essentially selling their children for fame. And money, which is, I guess, normal, because as much as it might suck, you have to have money in this world to survive, essentially. At least to survive in the society. Yeah, you can go live as a hermit off, in the woods and hunt and gather on your own and stuff. That is possible, but you're not really a part of the society at that point. And for humanity, I believe the future depends on how we act as a society. Because we're becoming more of a one people planet. Technically we are. It's just the separation of governments and countries. Like, a lot of those old barriers are breaking down, and it's just. It's a good thing, and I personally would like to see it happen quicker. But that's, I think, a whole nother bag of stuff to get into. Alright, this is coming along pretty well. I might do a little bit more, but I think I'll leave it like this for now, and come back to this later. And, yeah, it was just a fun little chit-chat I had here. It's amazing what I start thinking of when I actually start talking, which is partly why I'm doing these blogs, so I'm not just, sitting there blankly staring at cat videos on YouTube, or browsing Reddit or whatever else I happen to be doing at the time. Yeah, so anyone who's watching, have a good day, have a good night, have a good whatever you feel like having, and I will see you guys later.